So, at the start of this year's playoffs, I had to go with Washington as my Stanley Cup favorite because that was my Stanley Cup pick last summer. But to my patrons, I admitted, I think Pittsburgh's going to win this and I'm probably going to get egg on my face. And they did. So, one of the questions I've had a lot from people is, can Pittsburgh three-peat? Can they get a third in a row? The other thing that's happened over the last couple of months is there were a lot of Pittsburgh fans that said, well, the Penguins have a lot of cap space, so worries about losing Bonino, worries about losing Daly. It's really not a problem because there's all kinds of cap space. Those players are gone. This depth chart is not as good as what they had when they won the Cup in June. It's just not. In the last month and a bit, they've taken a hit. Absolutely. They took a hit in goal. Their blue line's been hit, and their forwards' depth has been hit. So there is no doubt in my mind that that's the best top six in hockey, because those are the best two centers that any team can boast. And I'm including the Draisaitl-McDavid combination in Edmonton. Why? Draisaitl's no Malkin. We can argue about Crosby and McDavid, and I agree. Crosby's got way more trophies to his name than McDavid, but McDavid's just started. And I remember when Crosby had just started, there were a lot of complaints about him that he hadn't won anything yet, and until Pittsburgh won a Stanley Cup, who cares? And Pittsburgh was a horrible team when Crosby got there. So Crosby and Malkin make Gensel, Rust, Kessel, and Hagelin better players. But of those four wingers, Gensel, I think, is the real deal. And Kessel, as long as he's in Pittsburgh, he's going to be a very solid forward. Which leaves Hornqvist on the third line, which is criminal. Hornqvist is a top six forward. The fact he's on the third line is an indication that they didn't exactly lose all their depth during the summer. Rowney and Wilson as the third and fourth line centers, I don't like it. I think Aston Reese is going to be given every chance to get third line center. When they signed Zachary Aston Reese, I believe it was with the idea that Zach would take third line center. Rowney and Wilson would then fight it out for fourth line center. Connor Sheary had kind of a down year compared to the year before, but that's what happens when you're moved off of Crosby's wing. So Sheary, I could see fourth line and Kuhnhackl moving up to third. I could even see Connor Sheary at this point being trade bait. He feels to me like a Colby Armstrong. He feels like a player that Pittsburgh can look at and say, all right now he's got maximum value. We know he's not going to score as many points as he scored, not this past season, but the year before. So let's see what we can get back for him. And I think that's a similar situation with Sheary. And Armstrong, Colby Armstrong, played on a wing with Crosby, which got Armstrong a lot of points, comparatively speaking to what he did the rest of his career. Ryan Reeves I have on the fifth line, meaning out of the lineup, but I think Daniel Sprong is going to get every chance to make it. Sprong may have to switch wings, or somebody's going to switch wings, and Sheary or Kuhnhackl will find their way out of the lineup. Because, yeah, Daniel Sprong is going to get every chance to make that team. There's still a lot to like in Pittsburgh. I don't know about Stanley Cups and picking your third ring, in 3 years, but there's still a lot to like in Pittsburgh. So much so that I'll tell you right now, I am picking them for first in the Metro. I didn't pick them for first last year. But I think Washington, the one team that finished ahead of them last year, Washington's lost something during the offseason. And while Pittsburgh has lost something too, they have not suffered the kind of attrition that Washington has. I like Pittsburgh's lineup. I like Dumoulin. I like Letang. Cole won me over in the playoffs big time. Schultz, I've taken a lot of heat for how much I like Justin Schultz. Sue me. Oli Mata, hello Mata, hello Fada. Every time he touches the puck, hello Mata, hello Fada. It's just this thing, here I am at Camp Granada. It's this thing that I do once. It's kind of like, it's kind of funny, and then it just sticks. Matt Hunwick, the most overpaid number 6 defenseman, but it's fine because if he struggles, they've got Ruedel and maybe Pouliot. They got Corrado in the minors, and they signed Zach Trotman. They have 10 defensemen who can step into the lineup, and Pouliot eventually is either going to make this lineup or they're going to trade him out too. Trade Pouliot, trade Sheary, see what you can get. And in net, they got Matt Murray. 2 Stanley Cups before he's used up his rookie status. That's pretty impressive. It's an impressive team. And Antti Niemi is a backup. Yeah, I definitely dumped all over the guy during last season. Because as a Dallas Stars fan, it was sad to watch. But he needed a change of scenery. Dallas needed him to have a change of scenery. Maybe it works for him. I've seen goalies play their way out of a city, like Devin Dubnyk in Edmonton, and then play really well somewhere else. Maybe Antti Niemi will do that too. And then if he struggles, there's Tristan Jarry sitting in the minors waiting to come up. It was asked on another video too why I don't have certain prospects on these charts. If I don't have this prospect on this chart, it's because his likelihood of making the roster is probably pretty slim. And at this point in time, they're probably better off staying in junior or playing in the American League. This is your call-ups. And Aston Reese, as a college signing, would be at the top of the list for guys to come up for Pittsburgh. And he had a laundry list of teams to choose from, and he chose Pittsburgh. And he chose well. He was smart. It was a smart move. Maybe he knew something we didn't know. That Pittsburgh was going to all of a sudden have roster openings come the fall. Because they have them. The one thing I wonder is, I'm not enamored by Pittsburgh in this region at all. I'm not. I mean, Reeves is the tough guy. He's their brawn. He's the guy that's going to police Crosby in certain games. I don't think he's going to play every game. He might. But then that doesn't leave an opening for either Sprong or Kuhnhackl. I don't think Pittsburgh fans would be too upset over Kuhnhackl sitting out, but then he gets moved. Because he's proven that he's good enough to be an NHL player. I wouldn't mind seeing him on Vancouver's fourth line, to be honest. If Pittsburgh wants to trade him, I wouldn't mind seeing him in Vancouver. But I'm not overly enamored with some of these players in here, and maybe it's because of the stark drop off between this, which is the best in the league, and then because this is so good, it does sometimes make it more difficult to get the rest of the roster together. Like even if you look at the defense, okay, you look at their top 4 on defense, like their top 6 forwards, the drop between their top 4 defensemen and the 5th and 6th guy isn't as strong as the drop between their top 6 and bottom 6. But I'm splitting hairs. This is still a first place team in their division. So the question becomes, are they going to win a Stanley Cup? I'm not going to reveal who I think is going to win a Stanley Cup until I'm done this series, because I don't know. But I don't think Pittsburgh will win a Stanley Cup again this year. Do they become a dynasty by winning 3 out of 4? That I could definitely see. Could they win this year? Sure. They could win in 2018, sure. But their issue really is going to be this. Crosby took a lot of hits in the playoffs. Crosby got banged up pretty bad. And Sid the Kid, I know everybody loves him, but he said that the NHL, concussion protocols, basically, if he feels like he's ready to go, then he's ready to go. Wrong. Concussion spotters didn't have any say in him getting pulled out of those games. Wrong. The NHL's still getting the concussion thing wrong. This star player the number one player in the league for the last 10 years. Sid the Kid, the face of the organization, the face of the NHL, and they don't take care of him. It's fine if Ryan Reeves is going to jump in and beat somebody up. Let's just say they're playing Washington. Matti Niskanen leans into a hit, puts Crosby into the boards. He hits the boards head first, which apparently isn't part of the concussion spotters. How can a head first hit into the boards not be immediate concussion protocol? But if Crosby's down on the ice with a concussion that just ended his career, who gives a damn if Ryan Reeves is going to come in and beat Matt Niskanen up? Does it matter? No. People talk all the time about how, well, nobody would touch Gretzky because Semenko would flatten him. It was a completely different game. Most players were 5'9" and 5'10" and weighed 170 to 180 pounds. Guys now are 6'5", 6'6", and weigh upwards of 230 pounds. It's a completely different game. The guys that are hitting Crosby are a hell of a lot bigger than the guys that would have hit Gretzky. It was almost a no-hit game when Gretzky played. It was a completely different game. The hits were usually between hitters. Skill guys were able to skate around. It wasn't until Scott Stevens and guys like that started teeing off on them coming through center that all of a sudden was like, well, he's in the trolley tracks. Yeah, they had that opening. Until defensemen went, wait a minute, why am I letting him come through and get that speed through the neutral zone? Why don't I just tee off on him when he hits our blue line? Crosby plays in a completely different environment than Gretzky did. If Gretzky played today, Gretzky would have had concussion issues too. Gretzky would have got flattened regularly. And Dave Semenko, bless him, and I haven't done a video yet on Semenko, I intend to. Dave Semenko could not have prevented the concussions because in order to prevent the concussions, you have to be on the ice with the player. Ryan Reeves is not going to be playing on that right wing. Reeves is not pulling rust off that line. You're not going to have Gensel, Crosby, and Reeves. No coach in their right mind will do that. And yes, there will be the occasional player who's like, oh, well, I might have hit Crosby, but now they got Reeves there. But in general, that's not going to happen. The enforcer protects the players thing. I watched Patty LaFontaine's career end with concussions. I watched Mark Savard's career end. I watched Paul Correa go down the drain. I've watched a lot of players who were really good. Eric Lindros. And Crosby's one hit away from joining that list. And I can't think of a player whose career was extended because they had a Ryan Reeves in the lineup. That says, man. Like I said, Semenko protected Gretzky. But here's the deal. If you hit Gretzky, Gretzky would go to the bench, tap Semenko, and point at the guy, and Semenko go out and beat him up. But Gretzky had to get hit first. And guys ran from Semenko. But then there's the Ulf Samuelsson defense, which is turtle. Good thing I'm wearing Pittsburgh, huh? Because the other argument is, well, now guys are going to have to fight if they hit Crosby. No, they won't. They'll turtle. If a player's a coward, if a player's going to take a cheap shot at Crosby and he's a coward, he won't fight after. He'll turtle. And if Ryan Reeves is ragdolling a guy who's turtling and he can't get a good shot at the guy, well, Reeves is out of the game. He's getting 5 in a game. Now Reeves is out. And if he does it a few times, the NHL might suspend him. So we'll see how this goes this year. But I really don't know that Sestito still being in the organization and Reeves, I don't know that it's going to mean that Crosby has a gold star of health. The NHL has got it wrong. So hopefully I'm wrong and the Penguins finish first and Crosby plays 82 games and Malkin plays 82 games and they do really well. Because it is a very intriguing storyline if going into the playoffs, Pittsburgh's got home ice advantage in the East for the whole playoffs. I'm not talking President's Trophy, but I'm saying if they were first in the East What an intriguing storyline that would be. Imagine if it was Pittsburgh against Toronto in the first round. What if it was Pittsburgh against if the final seed to get into the playoffs, if somehow Montreal got in? What if it was Carolina? And you laugh. But a hungry young Carolina team and a tired, just won 2 Stanley Cups, played a lot of hockey in 2 years. Penguins team, that could be a more even matchup than people might think. I'm getting ahead of myself, though. Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, and thank you so much for watching. You guys are the best. That's why I'm here doing this. And for Penguins fans, are we friends now? Are we friends after this? Because I'm admitting, whether I like them or I don't like them, they're likely first in the division. And I can't see a top 6 in the NHL that can rival this, because these top 2 centers, as long as they're healthy, are the best in the league. Put together. I'm not going to get into the Crosby and McDavid argument again. Not yet. That's coming. And until then, stay tuned. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.